This is the Yanks Go Yard podcast with Adam Weinrib and Thomas Carannante.
Welcome to the Yanks Go Yard podcast. I'm Adam Weinrib alongside Thomas Carannante. The Yankees went into the home of one of their division rivals over the weekend. Strip the context away, don't remember what came before, think about what might come after. Saw some positives in the Yankees winning 2 out of 3. What's that? They won 2 out of 4. The series started on Thursday, and it was one of the worst games of the year. Got it. I hear you. But hey, after losing that one on Thursday, if I told you the Yankees are going to win 2 of these next 3, it's going to be 2 blowouts, there's only going to be 1 competitive game in this entire 4-game series, and it ends up 16-5 Yankees, would you take that? You would. Context dependent. If I told you before the series you're going to split this and Carlos Rodon is going to be the biggest problem in a rotation that's suddenly becoming an eyesore with no solution and no end, you'd be like, not great, but I guess I'll watch it. All things considered, could have gone better, but in terms of splits and in terms of needing to feel something positive after a horrific 2+ week stretch, I would say this fit the bill. Solid split. Kick the can down the line a little bit. I promise you, though, if the Yankees had lost 5 straight series instead of salvaging this one with 2 pretty impressive victories and some turning point-esque moments, you'd be much more bummed than you are now. You can find us here every Monday, every Thursday, not this Thursday because it's the 4th of July. Celebrate with your loved ones. Celebrate your country. Eat a firework. You can find us most Mondays and Thursdays at 2 o'clock Eastern right here. And today we're going to be talking more positives than negatives from this split. Maybe Thomas Carannante, co-host, disagrees. Maybe he wants to flip it and do 3 negs, 2 pauses. But I think this series split deserved 3 positives, 2 negative takeaways because it was basically, it was right there. It was like I was 60-40 excited about this split overall. But if you were 40-60 and you fell in the opposite direction, I could hear that. I could hear it. I'll just say Saturday's game was the first time this year that somebody on Twitter asked if the Yankees should sell at the deadline. I don't think we're there. I don't want to be there. I don't want to be fending off that request. It's good to ask questions, but it's maybe not always good to ask that question while they are basically right atop the playoff race in the American League. Give it a couple of weeks, but yes, the Yankees should go for it. Yes, the Yankees should not just throw away an opportunity to get into the postseason. And they proved, I think, on Friday and Sunday, hey, we're not going to throw this season away. We're going to fight back a little bit. A couple of big moments to highlight. Thomas Carannante, join us with a word from our sponsors, and then we'll get into what happened in Toronto. A team that I think I hated going in. I still hate now. I think they made some Bush League decisions during this series, and I think the Yankees, Toronto had a chance. If we were Blue Jays podcasters, we'd be talking about how they could have stomped on the Yankee season. They could have turned their own season around. They could have taken 3 out of 4 easily, but instead they somehow come away with 2 blowout victories and a split, and it's just a complete I would call that a mess if that were what my team did. But Thomas Carannante, hit us with that offer, and then let's talk baseball.
It is a fail on the Blue Jays end. You know, it's not a fail, Yankees fans. Taking a sign-up offer from DraftKings. That's what we're here talking about. New users can place a $5 first bet on any sport to instantly claim $150 in bonus bets. And all you got to do is sign up with our code Yanks Go Yard. The best part is that you will receive these rewards even if the first bet loses. Does not matter the outcome of the $5 wager. It just needs to be placed. Using our code Yanks Go Yard not only gets you these bonuses, but it directly supports the podcast, yanksgoyard.com. Your boys, Adam and Thomas. We're having a good time. Why don't you let us give you something? We give you content. Now we're giving you a DraftKings offer. Capitalize on it. So if you've been considering signing up for DraftKings or you know anybody who might be a first-time user, make sure to use that code YanksGoYard to maximize those first bets. Once again, only available to new customers who are 21 and older and physically present in legal gambling states. Please remember to always gamble responsibly. Check the episode description for full terms of the offer to see if you qualify. I view this all as a positive. What I say going into the weekend, I said you can't shit the bed against a team like this. And to me, a split on the road when you're playing your worst baseball is a success. The Blue Jays gained 0 ground. Yankees, what'd they lose? A half game in the standings? Something like that. Maybe a game. Either way, they stopped the bleeding in some capacity, which is all we were looking for. I know it did not start off in the manner that we had hoped. And and there are still plenty of concerns. We're not going to lie to ourselves, but perseverance, getting over bad play, getting over absolute implosions. I think consistently this team has responded as best they could this year. You still want to see it a little bit more consistently. Honestly, maybe forget about the consistency. You'd rather see less of this, whatever's been happening in June. But you finish the month with a winning record. You get out of you get off rival soil, coming out largely unscathed. Now it's a new month. You got an all-star break coming up. You got a trade deadline 2 weeks later. Time to buck up. But I'm not disappointed. I had we all had our gripes on Thursday, and I think that's when everything really started to get out of hand for some people. But again, the team has come back and responded, and I think that it's a good reset. You got off today, which is huge.
Need it.
Take a breath. Let's get back to it.
Thursday was just funny. It was like you couldn't possibly ask for a worse start because there isn't a worse start. There's no worse start than first two batters reach base, including one on a 2-strike hit by pitch. Vlad Jr. broken bat, knocks in a run. Ball rolling up the first baseline. Ben Rice forgets to pick it up or decides not to. Carlos Rodon screams at him. Carlos Rodon gives up a 3-run homer to the next batter. There is no worse start than that. That was arguably worse than 9 runs, no batters retired against the Royals last year. And, of course, it was the same guy. So we'll talk all about him. But, I mean, if you want to say, hey, let's get this off on the right foot, we're in the midst of a losing streak, there's no worse foot in the world. And that had better be rock bottom because that's like rock bottom of a sports watching experience. Injuries accepted. That's the worst performance possible by a team from an attitude perspective. Yeah. From a key cog, from an expensive cog. We'll talk all about that. I broke my own rule. I went negative before positive. But I think this series, I honestly kind of like this series for as the least amount of, we've had no fun in the second half of June, basically. Almost none. So this was a split, and this was good theater. There were moments of tension and release, and you don't want to remember Thursday and you don't want to remember Saturday, but the wins were good theatrical experiences, and I think also commendable for the Yankees. We said when June started, hey, the June schedule's crazy, but this team apparently doesn't lose, so they start the month running through the Twins, running through the Giants, big Sunday night win against the Dodgers, running through the Royals, and you're like, oh, I guess it doesn't matter. We're playing playoff teams now. We're still just knifing through them like butter. The hard times hit pretty hard, but they do get through June with a tough schedule with a winning record, 14-13. So, I mean, the lightest applause ever. I'm not standing up and raising the roof and asking you all to join me in raising the roof, but lightest applause ever because this month was horrible. And it all evened out to a 1-game winning record. So good job by the Yankees in air quotes, which I'm doing on the stream. If you're not watching, I'm doing air quotes. It's not a good job. It wasn't a sick job, but minorly, you deserve to be commended for finishing above 500, given what you had to deal with in the back half of the month. And one of the things they had to deal with is my first positive, which is Juan Soto inspiring the team by gutting it out on Sunday and putting himself in the lineup 6 minutes before the game started. I was ready to call this a negative because in the back half of June ate away at my brain tissue a little bit where I'm like, why would we risk Juan Soto in the finale of this series? But Juan Soto, he clearly compromised his own body and his hand on Friday night, couldn't play Saturday. They got demolished. I got long-range goals. I'm thinking like Aaron Boone. I'm like, why would we want to see Juan Soto in this game if there's even a question in the pregame warmups? And then I was like, why does he even go through the pregame warmups? Just scratch him. And then he goes through them and isn't in the lineup. And you're like, okay, so he's too hurt to participate in the game. They didn't like what they saw. And then all of a sudden, there's Juan Soto in the lineup. So the pessimistic part of you is like, really hope that's not a mistake. But the optimistic part kicks in right away because he leads them and inspires them just like he did on Friday night. That time by hitting a 3-0 pitch for a home run. This time by merely appearing in the game and lining a 106-mile-an-hour single in his first at-bat. Judge followed, and from that point on, the lineup looked a lot more interesting and electric than it has in quite a while. And it has you asking much better questions like, is Gleyber Torres coming out of a funk after that minor reset? Is Ben Rice a piece in the second half? Should we make more out of Trent Grisham's resurgence in June than we have been? You're asking all these questions because Juan Soto set the tone in Sunday's game by putting the team on his back in a game that I've been conditioned to call relatively meaningless in the long term as a fan of the 2021 through 2024 Yankees. I'm like, you lose 3 out of 4 to Toronto, whatever. It's all about keeping Soto healthy. And Soto's like, I'm healthy enough to play, and I'm going to hit a 106-mile-an-hour single, and you're all going to follow my lead. So I should start thinking more like Juan Soto than thinking like me, a big loser who's been following the Yankees for a couple of years and is trying to give people more days off than they need. So shout out to Juan Soto for one of the only good ever late lineup adjustments in the history of following recent Yankees baseball. And plenty of people put their hand in this one. He wasn't it wasn't 8 runs and they were all off Soto's bat, but I thought he set the tone pretty well.
Yeah, a little roller coaster there. Saturday, you get him removed from the lineup 20 minutes before the game, and then Sunday, he's right back in there after the X-ray or the MRI or whatever route they decided to go. Gutting that out, beautiful. I mean, he homered in the at-bat after he supposedly hurt his hand, so how bad could it have been? Positive for me right off the bat, we got to talk about Sunday. Sunday was really how we got here and how I think the team set the tone. Bottom of the lineup production kind of fulfilled the trend that was beginning to surface as the weekend, as the 4-game series started. 6 hits yesterday from hitters 6 through 9, 5 RBIs, 3 walks, 4 strikeouts. I mean, that might be the best we've seen all year. Mm-hmm. Saturday it wasn't pretty, even though Austin Wells got in the action a bit. But then you have the romping on Friday night. Jahmai Jones gets 3 hits. DJ LeMahieu hitting an RBI. Jose Trevino hitting an RBI. So maybe there's something to keep an eye out for here. I don't think it's going to turn around on a dime. But if hitters 6 through 9 are showing any sort of life more than they had throughout the most of the month of June, the team's going to be in really good shape, because if that cast of players is in any way, shape, or form propping up the first 4 or 5 batters or is turning the lineup over, it's a completely different team. And you saw that because it resulted in 24 runs in 2 games. Got to give him credit. I know there's a long way to go for a lot of these guys, right? Trent Grisham largely had a great month, but they're still got to prove consistency. DJ LeMahieu hasn't really done anything this year, so few hits over the weekend isn't really going to change much surrounding him. Austin Wells still has to find his stroke. Jose Trevino's got to figure out his defense as well, because that's still a problem. But overall, you didn't face any slouches on this Blue Jays team. You got Kevin Gausman in the finale. I know he's not having a great year, but that's a major league pitcher. And a lot of different guys stepped up to make sure that he got worked, the bullpen got worked. Good showing overall.
I mean, we were joking before. I think we even said it on the episode before Thursday's game, that it was basically like everyone's taking this series for granted. It's like, all right, well, here comes the last place team in the AL East. Like, the Mets and Grimace or whatever, it's over. We're going to go to Toronto. We're just going to stomp on them. And it was like, you should look at the pitching matchups, because Carlos Rodon, no reason to feel confident in him against any opponent. Yusei Kikuchi owns us, and lefties have owned us all year, and he's one of the good ones, and he's one of the ones we can never time up. And then Nestor on the road against Chris Bassett, who also is someone who usually puts us to sleep, followed by Gerrit Cole coming off that Mets series and that Mets appearance with the fastball in the low 90s against a quality major league pitcher in Kevin Gausman, who we've gotten better swings off of lately compared to Bassett and Kikuchi. But I don't know. It didn't even really you didn't even have to bend over pessimistically to see 4 bad performances in that series. Like, it wouldn't have shocked me at all if they had just no-showed on offense 4 times and Cole looked like the Cole from the Mets series. Why should I have had expectations of Cole looking any better game over game? Just because he told me his body is a car or something? Like, I had almost no data to believe that he would just bounce back game over game. And so it was very easy to foresee a real train wreck and maybe more tweets asking me if the Yankees should sell at the deadline, even though it still wouldn't have been necessary either way. But look, if you are one of the listeners who skips through the positive and just skip through the first 16 minutes to get to the negative, here we go, because Carlos Rodon Man, I want to be nice. And I gave him so much. Okay, here's the nicest thing I can say. I don't think he deserves this. I don't think he deserves to be feeling the way he's feeling right now. I think he put in a lot of work at the start of the year to get past 2023. And there's a longer sample size of good performances in 2024 than there is of bad performances. So he earned what he's put up already this season. And for his sake, I hope that he's able to channel it into a return to May form rather than regressing like this. And his metrics, his FIP, expected ERA, all that stuff indicated some level of regression. It felt fair to expect some level of regression from Carlos Rodon. There was no fair reason to expect him to immediately, on a dime, revert back to the 2023 version of himself, who can't stop pitching off the extremely predictable fastball that has regressed slightly, if not significantly, from his 2021-22 peak. He can't be that guy anymore. And I don't know what snapped between the Royals game and the Red Sox game, but he has looked like a carbon copy of 2023. And he brought the 2023 attitude along with it, showing up Ben Rice on the field. I'm not even going to go after him for being visibly upset in the dugout in the Braves game, because that's what I can't believe, that he would be the guy who was visibly upset in the dugout in the Braves game, getting consoled by his teammates, and then in the heat of battle in his next start would be the one to make one of his teammates feel similarly like shit. Come on, dude. Ben Rice is a rookie. He has no extra base hits. He might be your first baseman down the stretch at that point. He's picked up extra base hits the last couple of days, but he's hitting all singles. He's got an OPS in the 600s, and every game he plays at first base, his job is at risk for the rest of the season. And you're going to humiliate him after being lonely in the dugout yourself in your last start and having your teammates come to your defense? I think Rodon is as befuddled by his backslide as I am, but I think there is a solution here. He's got pitches to go to if the fastball's not working. So I have a lot of sympathy for Rodon's play, but very little sympathy for the stubbornness and the act of let me finish this when Boone comes out and gets him in the fifth or whatever. It's a disaster start after two other disaster starts. I don't know why he's acting like Aaron Boone owes him that opportunity. To really disturbing to me. And I'm someone who's rooted for Carlos Rodon all year and will root for him again. I think he's got the perfect ability and intensity to channel into being an incredible Yankees number two. And he was in May. I think it's absurd that he backslid so far so quickly, but some of the emotional swings in this start really got on my bad side. And I think Rodon needs to be honest with himself about what he did and what he does publicly, because for as good as the Strowman meltdown was and as well as it was handled, we'll talk about him in a second, I think Rodon's was directed at somebody who did not deserve it, and he showed a surprisingly low level of empathy for somebody who did not earn that score. And
you're supposed to be a team leader. That's a guy who's been here for 10 games. That's not how you treat a player like that, unless it's something egregious where it's your head's not in the game or you're languishing, or I don't know, the effort's not there. Plenty of things. Ben Rice tried to make. I would have picked the ball up and just made the out.
Yeah,
that's what I would have done.
It was a silly mistake. Yeah, it wasn't that Pirates first baseman running Javi Baez all the way back to the plate or whatever. It was goofy. Mistake was made, and it led to a spiral. But nothing more predictable than Springer homering in the next at bat, because you knew once Rodon took himself out of the game, you're like, well, he's going to go fastball here, and Springer's going to ambush him.
Yeah. It all comes down to Carlos Rodon persevering, and he's had very little proof of that so far. I'm not getting on anybody for their emotions, but like, you can't be crying in the dugout after a bad start, a regular season start against the Red Sox. You can't as an adult person. I don't think it's a sign of weakness. I think expressing your emotions in any way that you can is totally acceptable and fine. For the national stage, though, and for what people are seeing, you have a second bad start in a row and you're going to cry in the dugout and then have it kind of continue to snowball in the next outing. Like, it was Braves, Red Sox, and then no, it was Red Sox,
Braves. Yeah.
Red Sox, Braves. Yeah. So his first bad start of the year, he's crying in the dugout, and Gleyber Torres, the most like the player who should not be consoling him, because Gleyber, the the image around Gleyber Torres in terms of his effort and his ability and his dedication or whatever it is. We'll talk about him. He had a nice rebound this weekend, but that was just an all-time bad scene. And there was no reason for Rodon, in my opinion, to be that upset. He's been having a great season up until then. It was one bad start against the Red Sox, and he kind of let it spiral from there. And I think we're seeing the result of that. And it's his ability to keep his cool, his ability to limit the poor body language. Like, you can't get like this after one or two bad starts, because then the third bad start is coming. Anyway, like you said, we're going to root for him. Hope everything's okay. Hope everything turns around. We know it's a tough game, but I think we're more just upset because he was doing so well, and it looked like he had put that stuff behind him, and then all it took was one day for it to all go back to what the nightmare stuff we were experiencing last year.
Yeah, this is, for me, tough love like a family member. I love Rodon in May, and I know what he is at his peak. And even if he's struggling to get to that peak, I know what he is approximating it. We can't have what we had in this start in Toronto. That's unacceptable behavior. And I like him as a guy from afar, and I like him as a cog on this team. That's unacceptable behavior.
I couldn't agree more. Somewhat unacceptable behavior for me. We're back to, I don't know if people are noticing. I'm noticing it because it's something that I pay close attention to at the top of the lineup. Like, Anthony Volpe can't be doing this right now. We're back to concerning levels about Anthony Volpe, and it's one of those situations, right? We watched Rodon. Rodon had a great 8-9 starts to the season, and then it all got erased in 3 starts. Anthony Volpe had a great first 2 months of the season. He's erased it all in 1 month. Last 28 days, 211, 231 on base percentage, 511 OPS, 512 OPS. That is, I know you're not making a lineup change at this point because the Yankees in theory are fine. You want Anthony Volpe to be your leadoff hitter. I don't know if he's a leadoff hitter. I still don't. Doesn't feel like he is. It feels like he should be, but when he's there, he just seems like a number 7 guy, a really, really good number 7 guy who's going to torment you. Either way, I think a lot of the issues in June, especially when you talk about the offense, because the offense underperformed in many ways the last month, goes back to this. Your leadoff hitter cannot be hitting 211, and if your leadoff hitter is hitting 211, because we know baseball is hard and you go into rough stretches, and making contact is one of the most difficult things in professional sports, you certainly can't have an on-base percentage that is 20 points higher than that average. Not to mention the strikeouts. That number's increasing fairly concerningly. 0 home runs in the last he hasn't had a home run in over a month. 3 walks, 0 home runs, 3 RBIs, 4 stolen bases in his last 25 games. Slumps happen. I understand that. There's got to be a change in approach. It's got to be something, because you know what? Can't complain about his defense. Sterling as ever. Yeah. He's looking better. And now I see why he got the Gold Glove, or why people thought he should get the Gold Glove last year. Do I think he deserved it last year? Not necessarily. This year, he absolutely deserves it. And he's made that stride on that side of the ball, and it's been incredible to see. But this offensive performance is exactly what had everybody concerned last year, or, had people looking at, like, he had a 2020 season. It didn't feel like that. It felt like it was much less productive than that. And you look at his total numbers on the year now, it's not bad, but 261 average, 705 OPS, 99 OPS plus. It's unspectacular. Yeah. All the goodwill erased in a 4-week span. So something's got to get fixed here, because it's looking a lot like everything we took issue with last year.
Too many people saying that the Yankees only have 3 good players and the other 4 through 9 in the lineup are bad. Anthony Volpe took that to heart and was like, no, we only have 2 good players. Never mind. I'm not good.
Yeah, what did he do this weekend? I don't know if he got a hit.
He got robbed yesterday. I think he had a bunt single, and I think he had another hit in the Friday game. But yeah,
he had 3 hits. He went 3 for 19.
Yeah, I mean, it's a bummer. it's a bummer because we lauded the change in approach earlier in the season, but if the strikeouts are going to be up and the power's not going to come back, like I'd rather have the 2020 guy than the 261 with no power guy. But
yeah,
I mean, we have to find a middle ground here. I still think he's a talented ball player.
absolutely.
I think the Volpe that we saw in June, it was a month-long slump. It was bad.
Just so many 1 for 5 and 0 for 5 games or 0 for 4 games with a walk or something. Like I know it's hard to maintain, but he saw on June 1st, he was batting .282 with a .784 OPS. Average dropped 21 points. OPS dropped 79.
Yeah, 100 points basically. And not enough of those 0 for 4 with 1 walk days, honestly, because he walked like 5 times last month.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was a lot of 0 for 5s, and that's what the leadoff spot can give you. Well, you want to talk about, I don't think Volpe ever lacks for intensity, and I think the defense,
Absolutely not.
Again, let him survive this month. Make it a month-long slump. Turn it into a month-long slump rather than a month that portends bad things in July and August. But we cleared up the all-star discussion pretty easily, by the way. When I went away in mid-June, it was like, how do you think he's going to have room for all these all-stars? Judge, Soto, Volpe deserves a shot at shortstop. Heel, Strowman, Rodon, take your pick from the rotation. Clay Holmes. Now I think it's just Soto, Judge, and Heel if we're lucky. Like, Clay Holmes has been good, but it's really hard to be an all-star closer. I don't think 2.65 ERA and pitching once every 2 weeks is going to merit it. If you're gonna bump off some snubs. I don't think Clay Holmes has done enough this year to earn not being a snub at this point. I think Heel probably still makes the team because narrative-wise, it's fun, and he pretty much locked up a spot before his last 2 outings. But there's also a chance that MLB reaches out to the Yankees and is like, Luis Heel made the All-Star team, and Aaron Boone's like, we're going to pretend we didn't get this call. We're telling him he didn't make it. Like, they're not sending him to the All-Star game. He's not pitching. He's going to get replaced on the roster. They'll probably figure out a way for him to pitch on Sunday so he can't pitch in the All-Star game. Either way, that list has been significantly pared down. And amid these recent stumbles, Marcus Strowman has somehow been the best starting pitcher on this team. And I will say, coming off the heels of Rodon, it looked like Strowman threw it all away for a second on Friday night. Double play-ish ball, I guess. Chop from Vlad to Volpe. Big hop. Volpe tossed to second. Gleyber on to first. Vlad is safe. Run scores. I mean, we all watched this play a bunch of times. Looked like a fairly standard fielder's choice. I mean, there was like a split. So Strowman screams, throw the fucking ball. And so then you're watching with your eye on it like, oh my God, who didn't throw the fucking ball? And you watch it, Volpe, you're like, did he wait back on the hop? Not really. If he doesn't corral it when he does, I don't know if he gets the out at second. He could have charged intensely, but that's a recipe for disaster. And Gleyber did a pretty boilerplate throw to first. I wouldn't say he like ratcheted up the intensity, but nothing about that play looked off. I've seen funkier double plays in my life. I've seen worse turns, and it really set Strowman off. I think some of it was Gleyber's route or glove work on the ground ball, seeing eye single through the right side before the double play, because it became very clear in the aftermath that Strowman's anger was focused on Gleyber Torres. He did not complete the inning. Judge went and got him in the dugout, basically said, this is not what we do. Or he's trying to get to the bottom of it. I'm sure he told the media something else. I think he did. I think he was like, just, getting on the same page. No, you weren't. You were obviously doing captain work. But then Gleyber comes up the next inning. Luckily, after the Yankees had already broken the dam, after the Soto home run, after the J.D. Davis double. Remember J.D. Davis? They're already up 5-3 when Gleyber homers. So I think if it was still 3-2, they were trailing or something, maybe he doesn't come through, but pressure off slightly, delivers with the bomb, and who's at the top step to greet him? Strowman, who's in the postgame tweeting about how his intensity fuels him and he's sorry, whatnot. He talked to all the parties he had to. Strowman, in the postgame press conference, they're like, were you mad that double play wasn't turned? He was like, yep, that's what I was mad about. Good job, Strowman, not deflecting, not lying. Big endorsement for me here. And just say that fired up the team big time. And a lot of people there were some snarky comments on Saturday. They were like, I thought the season had turned around. What the hell's this? And it's a long season. You're not going to win every game you play. I think that inning, if we do end up talking about this Yankee team as a team that accomplished its goals rather than falling well short of them, that's going to be a moment we all remember. And either way, in just the long 162 game season, that is a great sequence that unfolded. And it's sort of a reminder of the human interplay. It's not always negative. Emotions don't have to be a negative here. I think Carlos Rodon deserved to be taken to task for what he did. I think Strowman deserves all the commendation in the world for how that was handled, and kudos to Aaron Judge.
Yeah. I think anybody who was upset by this or people who were being sarcastic about it were they don't like who Marcus Strowman is, right? Polarizing guy, personality that kind of rubs people the wrong way. Not me, Marcus, but some other people. Just saying. Nonetheless, I think Marcus knows that, so it's nothing controversial. Or they are stupid, because how many times have we complained and have shared in the frustration with other Yankees fans that there is none of this? There's no call outs. The manager doesn't hold the players accountable. The players don't get on each other. There's a lack of energy. There's head in the clouds. Nobody's waking up. Who's going to wake this team up? Who's going to say some shit? And then finally someone says some shit. It's like, oh, the Yankees are unraveling, aren't they? It's like, no. Marcus Strowman made his pitch, as he was saying in the post game. He said he was angry about the fact that he made his pitch and didn't get the outcome that he wanted, which, probably was partially true. I would agree that he probably had some frustration out for Gleyber from the play before. I would also argue, after watching that play like 10 times in a row, I've seen Gleyber Torres absolutely fucking rip the ball to first base. He didn't really do it there. Maybe he was underestimating how fast Vlad Guerrero was running down I don't know. Mm-hmm. But that was not the patented Gleyber arm strength, which is why I think Strowman said play with some intensity, because he's like, you have the fucking ability to do this. Why are you not doing this every time? Why does this look like the play you might be taking off? Either way, I looked at it the first few times and I was like, there's nothing wrong with this. Like, they tried to make the play. It was kind of an unlucky chopper. Weird exchange, but yeah, I think there maybe could have been a tad bit more urgency there on Gleyber's end if he really wanted to show off his abilities and whip it to first base like he's been doing for a long time. I think one of the things that we compliment the most is his arm strength over there. He'll make those little submarine arm throws and it gets to first base in 1 second. You're like, holy crap, how do you make that play? And then he goes and he boots a routine ground ball, or he's trying to catch a hot hit off the ground when the infield's in and he can't do it. So it's the Gleyber Torres enigma. We're sitting here and we're sometimes enamored, and then other times we're like, you know what? All those spectacular plays, Mr. Aaron Boone, they don't really matter when you're shitting them away with the routine ones. So I think this is a big positive because it took people out of their comfort zones a bit. I think it took, we saw the first Strowman emotional meltdown, which is, I think people were expecting much earlier, and they got it at the end of June. Secondly, it definitely made Gleyber Torres uncomfortable. The man was benched the previous few games because of a lack of hustle / poor play / whatever you want to call it. Aaron Boone will never admit it, but it seems like that was the case. And then you have Aaron Judge having to, look, he is the captain, right? It comes in the job description, but that's not a comfortable thing to do. You don't want to have to do that. You don't want to have to approach your teammate in the dugout and say that. You're like, hey, what are you doing, man? That's not really how we handle our interactions, or if we're upset with somebody. And guess what? You live and you learn and you grow from this experience. I think that it's a wake-up call, the fact that Marcus Strowman erupted in that manner. I think Gleyber Torres responded great. He had 2 multi-hit games. Or he had 3 multi-hit games this weekend. This came, what day was this?
This was Friday night.
This was Friday night?
Yeah.
They ended up winning that one, 16-5, right? Yeah, okay. Yeah, and then Gleyber had a multi-hit game that night, and then another on Saturday and another on Sunday. So he clearly responded to it positively, or he woke up, one or the other. It's either he finally snapped out of it, or he wanted to prove something to Strowman because he didn't want to be put down like that. And then thirdly, Judge knew the stakes here. Strowman still, half inning after the fact, was probably riled up. Judge has the demeanor, I think, to approach him and be like, right, we're not going to throw gasoline on the fire, but guess what, man? I know how you're feeling. This ain't going to happen. Just know it now. We're going to get better for it, but he handled it like a professional. I think Strowman handled it like a professional. I think Gleyber handled it like a professional. So everybody did their job there, in my opinion. These things there's going to be blow-ups. There's going to be people upset at people. There's going to be poor plays. There's going to be frustration boiling over. We just saw a really bad month where everybody was upset, still ended with a winning record. And I think the team's getting closer because of it. You develop these, more intense relationships when you're going through it. This is a big part of it. Still another half of the season to go. It's good.
Yep. And that second half starts with Gleyber with an OPS almost 50 points below that awful 2021 season that we all agreed was something that should never be repeated again, but only one home run short. So, yeah, big second half needed, or he's got a month left in pinstripes. So, yeah, we'll see. Good job by everybody involved there, though, and good start to a necessary potential last chapter from Gleyber Torres. Hey, negative. I need so much more from the bullpen. I mean, I'll be quick here, but it's not like I had a lot of hope for the Yoendris, Gomez, Phil Bickford, Tim Hill shuffle or whatever, but it did literally nothing. None of the high leverage guys have gotten any use in recent weeks because they don't play games with high leverage opportunities. So Weaver comes in, looks pretty flat, gives up a home run to Vlad Jr. And by the way, can we all laugh about Vlad throwing his bat, running to first, and then stopping between second and third and doing a dance with the lights off in a game that he cut from 7-4 to 7-5, and they ultimately lost 16-5. I expected to see more of you. I thought more of you guys were going to circulate that Vlad second, third dance clip after the Yankees finished off that win. I was kind of disappointed in the Twitterverse there, but Weaver just gives him a flat fastball on the outside corner. Holmes comes in late in an 8-1 game just because he needs work and gives up a run. So I obviously Canley had a big, 17 changeup outing the other day. But these high leverage guys have thrown like once in the last week each, and they've all looked pretty flat. There weren't enough of them to begin with. Need Scott Hepfrost back. Need 2 names at the trade deadline. And need maybe Jack Neely, who some Twitterverse stuff was coming out today. I think it was in NJ.com, and an Athletic piece. Matt Blake commented on it saying, we're looking at him, we're thinking about it. So in the same way that Ron Marinaccio was really impactful in 2022 before his shin stuff, I would say Jack Neely could be a huge addition in the second half, but that doesn't mean don't go ahead and get an arm or 2 arms at the trade deadline and bring Effross back and let me know what Lou Trevino's up to, because right now, we're like 3/8 of a bullpen deep right now. I don't want to see most of these people. Josh Mastajewski comes in yesterday. Michael Tonkin was great yesterday again. Yeah, shout out to Michael. He's like the only high leverage guy who gets work because he can come in. He can come in a 4-run game in the 6th and a blowout to soak up innings. So we've seen him a bunch of times, but almost nobody else. And when we have seen them, they blow off. So fix it. Clay Holmes, you will not be on the All-Star team this year.
I don't know what this bullpen is. So it needs another makeover of sorts. That's obviously going to be a big deadline priority for the front office. So yeah, I couldn't agree more with that. It's really not great. And even like Luke Weaver's kind of giving up runs consistently. Is what it feels like. Even though he's going multi-innings, I know that there's value in that, but every time he's out there, there's like one swing where it's like, oh shit, how? Yeah, I don't think right now there is not a single arm that is lights out, in my opinion. There's just, it's the balancing act of, oh, you dominated for 2 months now. Here comes the month of reckoning. Or you had a great 2 weeks. Here comes the next series reckoning. For me, it's the former players thing, man. IKF comes into this series, ridiculous showing, and he's having a great year. He's batting .292 with a .420 slugging percentage. Like, what? Mm-hmm. How is that even possible? He's never done that before. But he has a 4-hit day against the Yankees. He got hit by 3 pitches in the series.
We can't stop hitting people with back foot sliders, by the way. Carlos Rodon got it. A 1-2 pitch should never hit a guy in the fucking foot. Does any other team do this? I can't deal with any more of this.
Never. It's insane. He gets hit by 3 pitches. What was the total? I feel like he got hit by more than that.
He got hit by 3 in one game.
In one game, yeah. So that was some sort of record. And then multi-hit games. he had the 4-hit game on Saturday. He had the 2-hit game on Friday, and then he almost took Carlos Rodon deep, the fastball where Rodon was like, what the fuck is going on? How is this
over
happening?
and over again with his fastball. I better throw it 12 more times.
So there you go. I think if IKF is turning on your fastballs and sending them on a rocket ship just foul, that you probably got to mix it up a little bit. Nonetheless, there was a lot of conversation on Twitter because River Ave Blues, who likes to just bring out the worst in everything about the Yankee season.
Yeah, I did write about it.
Yeah, talked about players who are no longer on the Yankees who are either having good seasons or figure out a way to kick our ass. If you think that there's something we could have done about IKF, Bader, Severino, and Bowers,
Bowers, by the way, who's been not good and did not belong in this tweet, because this made me go like, oh, what's Jake Bowers up to? He has 0.0 WAR and he's got a 102 OPS plus. If you had Jake Bowers hitting 200 with some pop in the Yankees lineup right now, you'd be pissed. So Jake Bowers doesn't belong there. Gary Sanchez is also backslid since the start of the year, hitting 216 or something with the same amount of power as always, and is injured. These are people that you're not allowed to complain about. And if you are complaining about them, you're lying. The IKF thing, he has been absurd, but it did lead to a bunch of my favorite tweets of people being like, why exactly did we get rid of IKF? We better have gotten something for him in trade at least. It's like, man, what, you want to return to 2023? That team was awful. You're trying to bring back pieces of the worst Yankee team of a generation. There's no way you were advocating for IKF last year. His power output went down year over year. He had a worse OPS plus last year than in 2022 when you were yelling about how Peraza should start over him in the ALCS. And you're probably right about that when you were yelling. But a lot of people retroactively now become IKF defenders because he's blossomed in Toronto. But come on. You did not want IKF taking up reps last year.
Yeah.
He was a bad player.
He was not good. I think,
he did his best, but he was not good.
Yeah, I agree. And look, we wanted IKF to work out. That would have been a great utility piece. We talked about how valuable that could be for this team. We wanted Bader to work out. We loved his energy and how he seamlessly fit in right off the bat. We wanted Severino to return to the player that he was in 2017 and 2018. We wanted Aaron Hicks to not hate baseball. It just happened. Aaron Hicks dominating for 60 games at the Orioles last year. He doesn't have a fucking job right now, so he doesn't count. Jordan Montgomery, the common theme here is why do these players either immediately have resurgent seasons or figure out a way to discover themselves a little bit better outside of New York, or when they play the Yankees in any setting, absolutely beat the shit out of them. That's the stuff where you're just like, oh. And I think it's just cosmic, and it goes back to the conversation about how difficult it is to play in New York with the pressure, with the unrelenting fans, with the unforgiving media. So that's it. IKF ain't getting shit in Toronto. You want to know why? Because Bo Bichette's not good this year. And Vladdy has kind of regressed since 2021. And there's a lot of other conversations to have in Toronto. Whereas in New York, he was traded in a blockbuster deal and was apparently viewed by the front office as the starting shortstop. And it couldn't have been further from a real plan. So that's why the stakes were a little bit different there. For Bader, he was acquired in a walking boot for a starting pitcher. You can understand why the moment he started underperforming, nobody wanted him around. Severino was chronically injured for 5 years and got in a weird public spats with the Yankees front office and had clearly had injuries in his head at that point, calling a lat strain a gunshot wound and acting like he tore his groin off the bone when he was rehabbing for Tommy John that year, and ended up being like a grade 1 strain, and he was out for 3 more weeks. It was insanity what we had experienced. So I would just be wondering, I guess I'm not even wondering. What I want the Yankees to do is just stop acquiring these personalities. If you don't have a vibe scout in the front office, I know that's very maybe Gen Z to say, but there needs to be somebody in there who can properly assess the ability for a player to sustain themselves and grow in an environment that is not conducive for the average individual. New York is not that for most players. So the question should be, how do we keep finding these players come into our sphere? And why do we have to keep kicking ourselves every time we see them go elsewhere? And we hate ourselves when they're making us pay in these games. That's an indictment on the front office more than anything else. Not an indictment on IKF. It's not an indictment on anybody who's uncomfortable playing in New York. If you're uncomfortable playing in New York, it's not you. The team should know that, and the team should do the advanced scouting to figure it out. They should be exhausting all options when doing this type of information uncovering, and that's the end of it. So how are the Yankees reckoning with it? They should be looking at themselves, because they did this to themselves. All of the Hicks extension should have never happened. The Bader trade should have never happened. The IKF trade should have never happened. Hicks getting not Hicks. Severino even getting that 4-year extension. I was against that when it happened, just because I was like, you had years to buy time.
Mm-hmm.
And he started slowing down in the second half of that season, and you gave him money anyway. It's like the Yankees trying to get too cute. So yeah, I don't think they're reckoning with it. I think they should be taking notes, because if they do this type of shit at the trade deadline this year, whether they boot a clubhouse favorite out of town for a personality that's unable to handle the spotlight, it's going to be a big problem.
Yeah. What the hell? Just IKF. It's fair to just be like, yeah. It's obviously
never
on the
done
front
this
office.
before. Never
It's
done
obviously on the front. It's obviously on the front office or somebody, or I guess the Vibe Scout is taking some time off. But yeah, I just think I hate to be just asking questions, man, but I do think River Avenue Blues are as negative and whiny as the coverage has been lately. And by coverage, I just mean tweets, because they don't have a website anymore. That does have the face that just make you go, just the number of ex-Yankees this year that have out of nowhere bounced back tremendously.
I don't need that reminder, though. I think about it all the time, because it happens all the time. Why do we need to magnify that when we already A, know that's the case, and B, we're getting our ass kicked versus Toronto, and you're like, hey, let's make ourselves feel shittier going into the next game. I don't know.
Mm-hmm. No, it's valid. Well, let's end on a positive note, and that positive note for me is Gerrit Cole. So negative demerits, managerial demerits yesterday for Aaron Boone, warming up Josh Maciejewski in the second inning just to get him ready after coming up from Scranton. Is that the dumbest thing Aaron Boone's ever done? I think it is. Managing like it's the 1950s and they don't have cameras in the bullpen. Did he think we wouldn't notice? Did you think a beat writer wouldn't tweet? Remember Twitter.com? Do you think a beat writer wouldn't be like, hey, there's a guy in the bullpen right now? We were all panicking for good reason. Most Yankee panic is for bad reason. That was for good reason. The guy's up in the bullpen, and then he sits down. He's not coming in. Why? He's warming up during the game? During Gerrit Cole's start, which everyone is watching with eagle eyeballs? Are you kidding me? Dumbest thing Aaron Boone has ever done, far and away. But Gerrit Cole was awesome. And he labored a bit through the first three, took care of the fourth and fifth more efficiently. I think he was on his last batter in the fifth, and I think he would have been pissed if he didn't get that guy, because he would have been taken out after 4 2/3 and he wouldn't gotten the win. He would have been mad at himself, but he got that dude, uncorked some nasty curves, had trouble coming up and in on guys a few times, Vladdy notably, which got Aaron Judge hit with a baseball in his back. And I also think Kevin Gausman wheeled and fired a second to try to get Juan Soto to dive back in a second on his bum hand. You can't convince me otherwise. I think that was Bush League. I think there's a difference between testing somebody. Somebody was like, well, they should have tested Bassett yesterday when he got hit with the liner. They should have tested him with bunts and stuff. Yeah, I think that's fair. Trying to force a guy out of an individual game by playing to his discomfort is one thing. But I think just trying to get Juan Soto's thumb ligaments torn is dirty baseball. So that's what it is. But just completely unnecessary, out of the rhythm of the standard baseball game. Hey, why don't you go dive back in a second? I'll do it again. Why don't you dive back again? See how that hand holds up. I thought that was bullshit. But hey, that's just me. I'm a Yankee fan. I thought Gerrit Cole was fantastic in that game. And I wasn't like long-term pessimistic about Cole in the Mets game, but I was like, hey, he needs more time. And he probably needs the All-Star break. And I don't see this getting much better anytime soon. Probably by the end of the year, but not right now. And so to see Cole 96, 97 when he needed it on the corners, and the full strength of his curveball down and into lefties like Kiermaier and Varsho swinging over it, and was able to find his spots with the fastball a lot more often. I mean, yeah, 5 innings, 6 Ks. That's I want more from Gerrit Cole in August, but I'll take that after what I've seen recently. And that was a big, not just a step forward, but a leap forward for Gerrit Cole.
Yeah, and how much more does it piss you off that he did that against the Mets? Not against him. It's just like he's rehab. This is clearly a rehab stint. This is rehab stint 2.0 for him. He has to get up to speed. The minor league games were never going to get him where he needed to be. It was just necessary for the progression of building back his arm. But 4 home runs against the Mets, it's like, come on, now I got to listen to these people shit talk. He faced the Blue Jays lineup is better than the Mets. I don't care what anybody says. It might be underperforming, but it's better than what the Mets have right now. 5 innings, 1 earned. I'll take that all day. Especially when he's being monitored in terms of innings and pitches right now. I thought he gave him all that he possibly could have on Sunday, and it was a great rebound. But for me, I think I don't know if we're overlooking it or we're just expecting it because Aaron Judge is the man, but he is outperforming his 2022 MVP season right now.
Well, do you want a stat real quick before you go into the good stuff here?
I might already have it.
From Hembo? Do you have Hembo's stat? Yeah, yep. Give it to us because this is fucking nuts.
This is insane. Judge's last 50 games. Remember how bad he was in April? His last 50 games, 398, 507, 932. That's a 1.439 OPS. That is the highest OPS over any 50 games season span by a right-handed hitter of all time.
Ever.
Unbelievable. I know that's a classic splice, but there's relevance there because you also look at a lot of the numbers. I don't have them in front of me, but Barry Bonds was, I think, one of the only hitters to maintain like a 1.3 OPS over a certain period of time. I think that's the number. I forgot the duration, but Aaron Judge has been rivaling that, and he even rivaled that over last year and the year before with injuries interrupting it. What was even crazier to me, this is the stat that I saw yesterday. Bryce Harper's 2021 MVP season, he hit 309 with 35 homers, 84 RBI, a 5.9 WAR. Judge this season through June is batting 313 with 31 home runs, 82 RBIs, 5.9 WAR. So he's done it in he essentially did. Look, there's still time for his average to drop or whatever, but he's essentially produced the same amount of home runs, RBI, and WAR as Harper did over the course of an entire season, and Bryce Harper's an incredible player. So what we're seeing from Aaron Judge is it could be another one. It could be another absolutely historic offensive season. And now he has a clear path to another AL MVP if he can stay healthy and maintain a semblance of this production because he doesn't have to compete with Shohei Ohtani anymore. After the April that he got off to, the fact that he was able to climb his stats to what they are right now, it like you look at the numbers and you're like, this has to be an all-time incredible stretch because in April he was hitting March 207. I mean, it's still not even that bad. April, March 207, 754 OPS, 6 homers, 18 RBIs. Like most players are fine with that.
He picked it up, but there was a
dark
period time when it started with the ones. There was a time when the average was in the ones.
Yeah. For sure. But yeah, you look at those first 31 games, and that would put any MVP caliber type player in a hole, like an insurmountable hole. Like a lot of players don't recover from that. Aaron Judge not only has recovered from that, but he maintains the best numbers in the game. And again, outpacing his greatest season that outdid Shohei Ohtani, who was a two-way player back in 2022. Can't go overlooked. And we're kind of it's come to the point where we're expecting it because it's happening every day. The home run off Gossman yesterday was hilarious. I don't know what Gossman's throwing on that 1-0 count, but Judge is in the air and Gossman just like turns around and looks at him like, where the fuck do you think it's going, dude? It's way out of here. It's like 700 feet away. But yeah, we've come to expect it because every game, that's what he's doing. First inning home runs, just working counts, ripping balls down the line. But we got to pay a little bit closer attention to it and appreciate it a bit more because he's now 1.3 OPS 2 months in a row. Unbelievable. 1.397 in May, 1.378 in June. Insane.
And if you keep it up in July, we might change this name of the show to the 1.3 podcast because it has been absurd. And Judge has also been essentially one man in a two-man offensive operation. But some positive signs this weekend for sure, slightly outweighed the negatives. If you just skip to the negative segments, we can give you the timestamps. But overall, feeling better about the Yankees this weekend than I have in 3 weeks, which is fair and nice and good. And now maybe win some more baseball games. Much needed off day today. Never needed an off day more in my entire life, even though they did win yesterday. Reds and Red Sox this week at the stadium. A couple more divisional opponents before the All-Star break. Already through 10 games with the Jays, though. Only 3 more of those. That's nice. Don't have to see them again. But the Rays and O's, and then right into the All-Star break when Aaron Judge will be starting the All-Star game. Juan Soto leading the first balloting of the outfield positions. Hopefully he's starting alongside Judge. But you gotta keep voting. We got to get 2 of these guys there because we don't have a lot of relief on the back end from the rotation bullpen anymore that we thought we might have. We will see you again early next week, next Monday, to talk about the action, the Red series, the Reds and Red Sox. These are 2 series where if you are the Yankees and you're going to put up somewhat of a trade deadline, an All-Star break statement, win both of these. Win 2 out of 3 from struggling Reds offense, win 2 out of 3 at home from a Red Sox team that is no longer in the midst of a similar winning streak to the one they were on last time when they beat you up, and now you're at home and you're not at Fenway, and win some of these games. Win 2 out of 3 in both series. I don't know. We'll see it. We'll do a podcast either way, even if they don't. But winning 2 out of 3 in each of these series would be a good place to start getting people to take you seriously again. Then maybe take 2 out of 3 from the Rays. Then maybe take 2 out of 3 from the Orioles. I know it's a lot to ask. At least win 1 game in that O's series and then move yourself on to the All-Star break in style. But it starts tomorrow against the Cincinnati Reds, and we're going to see Frankie Montas in this series unless they shuffle people around. So we'll talk about that. We'll talk about that next week, even though the Red Sox will be the most recent series. We will save some time to talk about however that turns out. Until then, I'm Adam Weinrib. You can find me on Twitter at Adam Weinrib, Thomas Carannante. I know that people can find you too, but where would they do it if they could?
They sure can. If you're trying, at Tommy's_takes, you want to talk to the both of us at Yanks Go Yard FS, official Twitter account, please head on over to yanksgoyard.com. We know you're there. We see you. Keep reading that content. Have a good time. That's all we ask for. Ask some questions in the chat. We'll answer them. We'll create content around what you're thinking. We're always trying to. Remember the promo code for DraftKings, Yanks Go Yard. Like and subscribe to the YouTube channel. That'd be a great help. And until then, we'll see you next week. Enjoy America's birthday. Enjoy a hot dog. Enjoy a beer. I don't know. Stereotypical, but, no one ever complained about hot dogs and beer. And it's baseball. That's what baseball is, right?
This Thursday is the only time all summer you can legally enjoy a hot dog and beer, so you might as well do it. Otherwise, you're not going to have the opportunity, and it doesn't come around every day. So enjoy the day. We'll see you next week. Yankees should win some more. I hope they do. It was nice that they did this weekend, and I would like them to do it again. So take care, everybody. We'll see you next week.